Every single morning, millions of Americans over the age of 60 walk into their kitchens and pour a glass of water. They open a plastic bottle and swallow a thick, chalky white pill. You probably did it this morning. You take your daily calcium supplement because you are terrified of what happens if you don't. You are afraid of osteoporosis. You are afraid of your bones becoming brittle, porous, and weak. Most of all, you are afraid of the ultimate nightmare of aging: falling, fracturing a hip, and losing your independence forever. You swallow that pill believing you are doing the responsible thing. You believe you are building a fortress of strong, resilient bone. But what if I told you that the calcium you just swallowed is not going into your bones at all? What if I told you that right now, that concentrated calcium is circulating blindly in your bloodstream, finding its way to your coronary arteries? Slowly, silently, it may be turning the flexible, life-giving blood vessels of your heart into rigid, unyielding stone. You are trying to save your skeleton, but you may be actively cementing your arteries shut. You are unknowingly setting the stage for a massive, catastrophic heart attack. I'm Dr. Walter Hale, nearly 4 decades of practicing medicine, and the hardest, most heartbreaking conversations I've ever had are with patients who did everything they were told. People who followed the standard medical advice for decades and still ended up on an operating table with heavily calcified heart valves and blocked arteries. I want to tell you a story that pulls together patterns I've seen across dozens of real patients. The fall, the fear, the bottle on the counter, the collapse in the garden. I'd never attach a story this specific to one real, identifiable person without their consent. So think of her as every patient like this I've ever treated, rolled into one. Let's call her Eleanor. Eleanor was 68 years old when she tripped over a rug in her hallway. She didn't break anything, but the fall terrified her. Her mother had died of complications from a hip fracture, and Eleanor swore that would not be her fate. She went to her local pharmacy and bought the largest bottle of 1,200 milligram calcium carbonate she could find. For 5 years, she never missed a dose. She drank milk, she took her calcium. She thought she was invincible. At age 73, Eleanor didn't break her hip. Instead, she collapsed in her garden, holding her chest. When we got her into the catheterization lab and looked at the scans of her heart, her coronary arteries looked like they were made of concrete. The walls of her blood vessels were lined with thick, jagged, white deposits of pure calcium. She required an emergency quadruple bypass surgery to save her life. Eleanor asked me the same question I hear in recovery rooms every single week. "Doctor, I eat a healthy diet. I don't smoke. How did my heart get so clogged?" The answer was sitting on her kitchen counter. Today, we are going to tear down a 30-year-old medical myth. I am going to explain a physiological phenomenon known as the calcium paradox. I will show you exactly what happens when you dump isolated calcium into an aging cardiovascular system. I'll explain why the standard medical advice from the 1990s is now questioned by cardiovascular researchers, and I'll cover what to discuss with your own doctor instead, to protect your skeleton without putting your heart at risk. If you or someone you love takes a daily calcium pill, a calcium-fortified antacid, or a multivitamin loaded with calcium carbonate, do not turn away. Do not click off this video. What you are about to learn is not a fringe theory. It is grounded in hard, peer-reviewed clinical data, and it could genuinely save your life. Let us start with a dose of clinical reality that most people never hear in a rushed 15-minute medical appointment. For decades, the standard medical narrative was incredibly simple, almost childlike in its logic. Bones are made of calcium. Therefore, if your bones are thinning as you age, you just need to eat more calcium. When dietary calcium wasn't deemed enough, doctors and pharmaceutical companies began pushing massive high-dose calcium supplements, 1,000 milligrams, 1,200 milligrams, sometimes up to 1,500 milligrams a day. It sounded logical, but the human body is not a simple math equation. Your bloodstream isn't a smart conveyor belt that automatically delivers minerals exactly where you want them to go. When you take a concentrated, high-dose calcium pill, your body experiences a sudden, unnatural, massive spike in blood serum calcium levels. In a 20-year-old, the body can usually manage this spike because their bone turnover rate is incredibly high. The skeletal system is actively building, and it absorbs the calcium. But after the age of 60, your metabolic pathways are entirely different. Your osteoblasts, the cells that build bone, have slowed down. Your bones are no longer actively pulling in massive amounts of raw material. Here is the critical, fatal flaw in the calcium supplement industry. Calcium is completely blind. Once it enters your bloodstream through your digestive tract, it does not possess a magical GPS system. It does not know it is supposed to go to your femur, your spine, or your hips. It simply circulates. And if it cannot find its way into the bone tissue, it looks for somewhere else to settle. Unfortunately, for adults over 60, the most common place for that rogue, homeless calcium to settle is in the soft tissues of the body. And the most dangerous soft tissue it targets is the endothelial lining of your arteries. Why your arteries? As we age, our blood vessels endure decades of microscopic wear and tear. Fluctuating blood pressure, oxidative stress, environmental toxins, and circulating blood sugar create microscopic injuries, tiny inflammatory lesions along the smooth inner walls of your blood vessels. When your immune system detects these microscopic tears, it attempts to patch them up to prevent the blood vessel from rupturing. If your blood is flooded with excess, undirected calcium from your morning supplement, your body uses that circulating calcium like spackle. It lays it down over the arterial lesions to form a hard patch. Over the years, layer by layer, year after year, that calcium hardens. It combines with cholesterol, macrophages, and cellular waste to form heavily calcified plaques. Your once flexible, rubbery arteries, which need to expand and contract with every beat of your heart, become stiff, rigid, and brittle. In cardiology, this specific pathology is called arterial calcification. When cardiologists order a CT scan of your heart to determine your risk of a sudden heart attack, what exactly do you think they are measuring? They are looking at your coronary artery calcium score, also known as the Agatston score. They are literally, mathematically measuring how much stone has built up inside your heart's blood vessels. This is not a theoretical risk. It is a documented clinical crisis of our own making. A massive comprehensive study published in the prestigious British Medical Journal analyzed data from over 11,000 patients. The researchers found that individuals taking isolated calcium supplements experienced a 30% increased risk of myocardial infarction, a heart attack. Let that sink in. A 30% increase. By trying to prevent a hip fracture, these patients were significantly and measurably increasing their risk of sudden cardiac death. Further research published in the Journal of the American Heart Association pointed to the same underlying mechanism. A high intake of supplemental calcium, without the biological cofactors to guide it, is associated with an increased risk of coronary artery calcification. You are quite literally turning your heart to stone. So, why does this happen? Why does the calcium get so dangerously lost? To understand the solution, you have to understand the biological traffic lights operating inside your body. For decades, doctors told you to take vitamin D alongside your calcium, and if you look at your supplement bottle right now, you probably do. Vitamin D is absolutely essential. Its primary job, regarding bone health, is to open the doors of your digestive tract. When you take vitamin D, it allows your intestines to absorb the calcium you swallowed and pull it across the gut barrier and into your bloodstream. But that is exactly where vitamin D's job ends. It gets the calcium into the blood, but it does absolutely nothing to tell the calcium where to go next. If you take calcium and vitamin D together without anything else, you're unlocking the door and letting a large amount of raw material into your bloodstream. Nothing is there yet to tell it where to go. To get that calcium out of your coronary arteries and into your skeletal matrix where it belongs, you need a biological traffic cop. You need a specific, highly targeted nutrient that actively directs the flow of minerals in your body. That nutrient is vitamin K2. Vitamin K2 is the single most important missing link in modern bone and cardiovascular health, and it is the exact nutrient that over 90% of older Americans are completely deficient in. You have probably heard of vitamin K1. It is found in leafy greens like spinach and kale, and its primary job is to help your blood clot. But vitamin K2 is entirely different. It is found in fermented foods, certain aged cheeses, and natto, and its biological function is nothing short of miraculous. Let me explain exactly how this compound works at a cellular level. Vitamin K2 is responsible for activating two very specific vitamin K-dependent proteins in your body through a process called carboxylation. The first protein is called osteocalcin. Think of osteocalcin as a powerful biological magnet located inside your bone tissue. When vitamin K2 activates osteocalcin, it acts like a microscopic vacuum cleaner. It reaches into your bloodstream, grabs the free-floating, dangerous calcium, and binds it directly into the structural hydroxyapatite matrix of your bones and teeth. It physically forces the calcium to do the job you actually wanted it to do. But vitamin K2's second job is even more critical for your survival. It activates a second protein called matrix GLA protein, or MGP. MGP is found in the smooth muscle cells of your blood vessels and the cartilage of your heart valves. MGP is widely considered by cardiovascular researchers to be the most potent inhibitor of vascular calcification currently known in human biology. When vitamin K2 activates MGP, it acts as a chemical shield for your heart. MGP literally sweeps through your arteries, binds to the calcium that has inappropriately settled on your arterial walls, and pulls it out. I want you to really visualize that process. Vitamin K2 activates the proteins that help pull excess calcium out of your arteries. At the same time, it activates the proteins that help direct that same calcium deep into your bones. Without vitamin K2, your daily calcium pill and your vitamin D are a dangerous, undirected liability. With vitamin K2, they become a perfectly engineered, self-regulating bone-building system. The Rotterdam study, a landmark clinical trial involving over 4,800 participants over the age of 55, tracked this exact dynamic for a decade. The results were staggering. The participants with the highest dietary intake of vitamin K2 had a 50% lower risk of death from coronary heart disease. They also showed a 52% lower risk of severe arterial calcification, half the risk of calcified arteries, simply because their bodies possessed the right biological traffic cop directing the calcium. But the story does not end with vitamin K2. There is one more critical player in this biological orchestra, and if you are missing it, the entire system collapses before it even begins. That player is magnesium. Vitamin D is the door that lets calcium in. Vitamin K2 is the traffic cop that directs it. Think of magnesium as the ignition switch. It powers the entire metabolic process. Your body literally cannot process vitamin D without adequate magnesium. The enzymes in your liver and kidneys that convert vitamin D into its active, usable form require magnesium to function. Without it, vitamin D simply stores itself in your fat cells, completely useless. Furthermore, magnesium naturally acts as nature's calcium channel blocker. Inside your cells, calcium excites the cell, causing muscle contractions, nerve firing, and electrical tension. Magnesium relaxes the cell. They must exist in a perfect, harmonious balance. Swallow 1,000 milligrams of calcium while deficient in magnesium, and you create a real electrical and muscular imbalance in your body. Up to 70% of older adults run low on magnesium. This is exactly why so many people taking high-dose calcium supplements suffer from severe chronic constipation, terrifying heart palpitations, and brutal nighttime leg cramps. The massive influx of calcium is overwhelming the cells because there is no magnesium present to calm the tissue down. We have a population that is overcalcified and chronically under-magnesiumed, and it is driving both our osteoporosis rates and our heart disease rates through the roof. So, how do we fix this? How do you protect your aging bones from devastating fractures without inadvertently cementing your coronary arteries shut? I want to walk you through 4 things the research points to. One disclaimer before we start, said once and clearly, so I don't have to interrupt the science every 10 seconds. None of this replaces a conversation with your own doctor before you change anything you're currently taking. Now let's get into it. Step number 1. Question the megadose. The science is increasingly clear on this point. A single large dose of isolated calcium is not the gold standard it was sold as. Calcium carbonate, specifically, is hard for an older digestive system with declining stomach acid to break down. It causes gastrointestinal bloating in a lot of people, and researchers have connected large single doses to the blood calcium spikes linked with arterial calcification. Real food is the better primary source. Your body was built to extract calcium slowly, in small, manageable amounts, from what you actually chew. Sardines with the bones left in, wild-caught salmon, dark leafy greens like kale, arugula and bok choy, almonds, and high-quality fermented dairy all count. Calcium from food enters your bloodstream gradually, without the spike, which is far easier for your body to process safely. If a diagnosed deficiency means you genuinely need a supplement, dose and form matter enormously. Many clinicians now favor calcium citrate or calcium malate over calcium carbonate, since they're more bioavailable and don't require as much stomach acid to absorb. Step number 2. Get vitamin K2 into the picture. Vitamin D alone is only half the equation. If you're taking a vitamin D3 supplement without vitamin K2 alongside it, you're opening a door without anyone directing traffic on the other side. Look specifically for vitamin K2 in the form of MK7 or menaquinone 7. It's a highly bioavailable, longer-acting form that stays active in your bloodstream for up to 72 hours. The research typically studies doses between 100 and 200 micrograms daily. This is one of the most overlooked pieces of the puzzle in modern bone health. MK7 is the compound linked to activating matrix Gly protein and osteocalcin. Those are the two proteins believed to help direct calcium out of the arteries and into the skeleton, where it actually belongs. Step number 3. Don't overlook magnesium. Calcium and vitamin D don't get metabolized properly without enough magnesium in the picture. This is the piece almost nobody mentions. Magnesium oxide is cheap, but it's poorly absorbed and largely passes straight through the digestive tract without much cellular benefit. Magnesium glycinate or magnesium malate absorb far better and sit more gently on the stomach. Magnesium glycinate in particular is bound to the amino acid glycine, and it crosses the blood-brain barrier more efficiently, which some people find helps with sleep. Research commonly points to somewhere between 300 and 400 milligrams daily, taken in the evening. Step number 4, the mechanical signal. This is the step that doesn't come in a bottle. It's also the step almost everyone over 60 ignores, to their own detriment. Bone is living, highly dynamic tissue. It operates on a strict biological mandate known as Wolff's Law. Use it or lose it. You can swallow all the calcium, D3, K2, and magnesium in the world. But if you don't give your bones a physical reason to get stronger, they won't absorb the minerals. Bones only increase their density when they are subjected to mechanical stress. Walking on a flat treadmill or swimming is wonderful for your cardiovascular endurance, but it does very little for your bone density because there's no impact. Resistance is what actually gets results. Lifting weights, using heavy resistance bands, or simply performing bodyweight exercises like modified squats and wall push-ups forces your muscles to pull violently against your bones. That mechanical pulling action sends a biological signal to your osteoblasts, the cells that build bone, telling them that the skeleton is under stress and needs immediate structural reinforcement. Without the mechanical signal, the minerals have no blueprint to follow. With the signal, your bones act like a sponge, soaking up the K2-directed calcium and building a denser, fracture-resistant matrix. Let us review exactly what we have uncovered today. The outdated, simplistic practice of swallowing massive doses of isolated calcium is not just ineffective, it is actively dangerous. Without the proper biological directors, that calcium can settle in your soft tissues and stiffen your arteries. Over time, it raises your risk of a serious cardiac event. To build bones safely in your senior years, the megadoses need to go, and dietary calcium comes first. If you're supplementing, the full triad works together. Vitamin D3 helps absorb it. Vitamin K2, in the form of MK7, helps direct it into the bones and out of the arteries. A highly absorbable form of magnesium powers the whole process. Weight-bearing physical resistance gives the minerals a reason to stay. This is how you protect your independence. This is how you prevent the devastating hip fractures of old age without sacrificing the very arteries that keep your heart beating. I know that hearing this might be incredibly frustrating. You might be angry that you were told to take these giant calcium pills for 20 years without a single physician ever mentioning vitamin K2 or arterial calcification. But you have this information now. You have the power to change your routine tomorrow morning. Before we finish, I have a request for you. Drop a comment below right now and tell me, have you been taking a daily calcium pill? Did your doctor ever warn you about arterial calcification or the necessity of vitamin K2? I read every single one of these comments, and your shared experiences tell me exactly what the modern medical system is failing to explain to you. If you learned something vital today, if this video changed the way you view your morning vitamin routine and potentially saved you from a vascular event, please hit the like button. The algorithm on this platform relies entirely on your engagement to know that this is credible, life-saving information. By hitting like, you are actively pushing this video onto the screens of millions of other older adults who are unknowingly calcifying their hearts right now. Finally, send this video to a friend, a sister, or a spouse who keeps a giant bottle of calcium carbonate on their kitchen counter. You could be the literal reason they avoid a catastrophic cardiovascular event this year. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. In my next video, I'm covering a common over-the-counter sleep aid that millions of seniors take every night. I'll walk through what the research is now showing about its long-term connection to memory decline and dementia risk. You'll want to hear this one. Take care of your heart. Protect your skeleton intelligently. I'm Dr. Walter Hale, and I will see you in the next video.